All right, this is my second news video of the day. The first one I posted on the Entertainment Guy because there's stuff going on over there. So I was like, all right, I'm gonna talk about this other stuff first, and then we'll get back to some hockey. So uh, here we are. It's now April 10th, and we're still in this, and all the disagreements seem to be getting worse. And by disagreements, I just mean that we're all polarized in positions. I'm doing my best just to not get into a polarized position. I kind of feel like I'm watching the world all fight with each other, and I'm like, is there any sanity in any of this? No. All right. Okay. Cool. Now, in the midst of all that, there is still hockey stuff to talk about. Alex Newhook, are you an Abs fan? You like Alex Newhook? You excited about Alex Newhook? Then the fact he's won the Tim Taylor Rookie of the Year award should make you happy. Now, Tim Taylor, who of course had the nickname Toolman when he played in the NHL, because Tim Taylor, the Toolman, Home Improvement. I know that may be a dated reference for some, but Tim Allen's character on Home Improvement. Now he's also been named Hockey East Rookie of the Year. Alex Newhook had a pretty good season. 42 points, 19 of those are goals in 34 games. That's pretty good for a rookie at the NCAA level. NCAA, it's not unusual to see a player who becomes a star in the NHL putting up kind of paltry points at the end in the NCAA. You're like, oh, I guess. And then you see him in the NHL and you're like, wow, I don't know what they were doing in the NCAA, what kind of trapping was going on, but wow. So the fact that he puts up 42 points in 34 games in the NCAA is nothing to sneeze at. A very good season for him. And so if you're an Avs fan, that's good news. Uh, so we'll see how he does in year two. Erik Karlsson feels 100%. Now, here's the thing. Erik Karlsson feels like he's good to go whenever we get things back up and running. I would hope that Erik Karlsson is actually 100%. One thing that I've said about Erik Karlsson over the last, I'll say 3+ years, is that, and especially in San Jose, it's looked like something's off. Something's just not quite right. And he's not quite the player he was in 2016, 2017 with the Ottawa Senators. So if he feels like he's 100% right now, good. This is a good thing. And hopefully that means actually 100% and not kind of 100%, kind of sort of, but not really. Which is kind of how he's played, I would say, a lot of the time in San Jose. And he's still put up very good totals. Just the defensive side of things has been a disaster in parts. And I think it's because he's been dealing with nagging injuries. So hopefully this time off has allowed him to heal all of that up too. Because he does, I believe, come back sooner than he maybe should from injury as well. Ken Holland. So we're still talking about the Slepyshev thing, and this is something I've talked about before. He saw Slepyshev as a bottom six forward, and for Slepyshev, he didn't want to sign a 1 or a 2 year deal to come over to the NHL. Potentially, maybe miss the roster, maybe get bottom 6 minutes, maybe not get what he was looking for. And he said, yeah, he will make more money in the KHL than he was going to make in the NHL, especially when you consider escrow. That's going to keep guys in the KHL too, because they don't have to worry about 14% of their paycheck going into a fund that they may not get back. And so it is something you have to consider. So if a guy signs for league minimum $700,000, that means what, 80,000 of that goes into escrow, and they may not see that again. It's not insignificant. And again, I know people are going to be like, oh, big deal. But when you're already losing money in taxes, you're already losing money elsewhere, the actual money, your take-home money, it's still going to be really good, but you can make more money elsewhere. So that's why we see guys go over to Europe and players can stay in the KHL. And it's likely to see more guys doing that with escrow being where it is. And some labor uncertainty may very well add to that as well. So yeah, he said that he saw Slepyshev as a bottom six forward. Interesting. Players for the Edmonton Oilers have given $100,000 to Oilers Entertainment Group to assist with support in the community during this crisis that we're seeing take place. And again, it's an example of right now sports figures giving back to their community, which is great. And yeah, this is another example of that. Tarasenko, are you a Blues fan? You want to see Vlad Tarasenko back? Then you're in luck. He says he's good to go. He's 100% as well. And a lot of players are. Dougie Hamilton for Carolina says, yeah, I'm good to go. So we're in a position where if they figure something out, and we'll get to that towards the end of this, There's going to be a lot of healthy players. There's not going to be a lot of excuses if we get to playoffs and everybody's healthy. At least most everybody's healthy. So that's good news for the Blues and their fans, and of course for Vlad Tarasenko as well. Mark Kastelik signs his entry-level contract with Ottawa. Throw that up there, because sure, 2019 125th overall pick, and Dorian sees him as a solid two-way center. So there you go. This is the kind of signing we're seeing right now, where it's your entry-level contract is easy. You can put that on paper. You can get your draft pick signed, and everything else kind of sort of has to wait. All the RFAs, all the UFAs, all the big names we're waiting for, it has to wait. It has to wait until we have some kind of certainty. Tavares and the Maple Leafs have donated. They haven't said the amount of money, but Tavares and the Maple Leafs have donated to 2 Toronto area hospitals. I think one thing that's come out of this too is the appreciation for people that are frontline workers in the medical field. Not only that, something else I've started to notice is that these people work in your Mick jobs and McDonald's and Burger King and all that, the places that are still open or are still making food for people. There's some talk about, hey, these kids are risking a lot too, and these kids, some of them can get sick too. So maybe we need to recognize them a little bit more. I agree. I have thought that for ages. I know, before I met Yvonne, and my life was a lot darker at that point than it is now. Even with what's going on, my life is still a lot more rich and full than it was when I was alone and working a job that I didn't really like. And I didn't really have any kind of social life. But you know what used to make my day was I would go home on my way home, and I don't know if any of the girls that work there are going to see this or not. I know there was one that was watching my videos at one point just because she couldn't believe I had subscribers, because she'd seen me every day, almost every day at Burger King, and she's like, "Oh, you have." And I remember at one point she comes over and goes, "You actually, I found your YouTube channel. You actually have subscribers." I'm like, "Yeah. I don't know how I got that either. I have no idea." But I used to go into Burger King, and I knew they'd get my order right. They were very friendly. They were very, very nice. They were fun. And if there were no other customers around, there were a couple of the girls that would actually swear about something that happened during the day, which again, it's very unprofessional. But it was kind of the highlight of my day was that Burger King in Chilliwack, where just for that 10 minutes while I was waiting for food, or 5 minutes while I'm waiting for food, I had time to interact with people, and I could have some sort of sense of something before I'd go home to my apartment, which I didn't want to live in, from the job that I didn't want to be at. And I do think that the way that people look down on those jobs and people that work those jobs, I'm hoping coming out of all this, that stops. I really do. Because I don't think there's any shame in somebody working for a McDonald's for 20 years. You can make a half decent amount of money, and they help people. And yeah, I don't think it's a big deal. It's one of those things that I, as a person who's been told for years, you need to grow up and stop wearing jerseys. Look where that got me. Imagine if I'd listened. So yeah, I would still be probably at that crap job, because I wouldn't have this channel, right? And there is something to be said for these people that work at these jobs, and in all likelihood, they go to a high school reunion and somebody says, "Well, what are you doing?" "I'm working at Burger King." "Weren't you at Burger King out of high school?" Yeah, and those people are thinking, "Wow, they didn't really do anything. That's really it, huh?" And yet, I don't know. I don't see anybody out there working as like an exotic monkey doctor, or like some kind of really fun job. I don't see a lot of that, and I don't see people being a lot happier with like their careers for the most part. There are some people who really enjoy their careers, don't get me wrong, but what's wrong with having a Mick job? So hopefully we see that change. And again, this comes in part of that frontline worker being declared essential, and so medical, people are being taken care of, and should be. They should always have the proper PPE and all that stuff, but hey, for other people declared, essential, then give them their goods too. Make sure they're protected, because we need to make sure that supply chains still exist and we're still able to get stuff. Because if we can't, that's when things really get scary. Okay, now this was something that I hadn't really seen. Now, this is part of me not being on the social media as much as I normally would be. So the NHL has Hat Trick Trivia, which is hosted by PK Subban. Perfect. If you're going to have a show, have it hosted by PK Subban. Now, for people who don't like PK as a player, fine, okay, all right. But he is one of the most personable guys, one of the most outgoing hockey players there is, one of the most publicly known outside of hockey fans. And so PK Subban being the host makes total sense. He has a new guest player every week. Apparently, on the first episode, it was Patrick Maroon of the Tampa Bay Lightning. And it airs on the NHL Network, on their Facebook, YouTube, and their Instagram TV accounts as well. So a little 23-minute show that they have. And that's a fun idea. And, you know, it gives fans a chance to interact with players and do a little bit of trivia. And, yeah, so that's great. And this is the kind of thing the NHL needs to be doing. They actually had a stat on the 4 major sports, which, of course, are the NFL, Major League Baseball, NBA, and the NHL. And the NHL has done the least during this stoppage to keep fan interest, and they've been posting the least of the 4 major sports and getting the least amount of social interaction. So they've got to fix that. This is something that I was saying right at the start. Like, the NHL needs to really ramp things up and make sure they stay in the public eye, especially in markets where they're easily lost in the mix, and it doesn't look like they're doing enough. So hopefully something like this and other things start to surface where that changes, because again, we're going to see leagues really struggle coming out of this, and it's going to take a little while before things get back to where they were. Not because there's not going to be fans, but because financially they're taking such a huge hit right now. It's going to take a while to recover that. And for the NHL, they need to make sure they stay in that public eye, and they can generate ad revenue while they're at it. So that's important. Now, I saved this for the end, because I know this always causes a lot of consternation at the start. So if you don't want to hear about the NHL possibly returning, you can stop the video now and go about your day and all that. But if you're curious about the NHL's idea of returning and what they may want to do, now, and this is according to Pierre LeBrun, they had a conference call yesterday, and the NHL, they want the same thing the players do. They want regular season games first. Now, what Bettman has said is whether it's a 78-game regular season or 74 or 75 or whatever they decide on, he wants them to have some regular season games first. Now, I understand the NHL's thinking on this. This would make a lot of sense. You have players that are not going to be in playoff shape right away, no matter how well they're working out at home. And there are players posting their home workouts all over. But while the NHL wants regular season games, they also likely want to make sure that everything's fair as well. So that we're not talking about points percentage and, well, we only count the 68 games. They want to make sure every team's played the same number of games. And by saying 74, that means for a team that's played 71 right now, they still have to play at least 3 games. And then they can probably do that over like a week and a half and then start a playoffs. Now, the interesting thing is GMs were surveyed, and according to, I believe this was from Darren Dreger, they seem to be in favor of, at the very least, it has to be a best of 7 for the Stanley Cup final. And some of them are favoring a best of 7 for the conference finals as well. So that to them is important. And then you can have a best of 3 or a best of 5 with the first round and the second round. I'm going to step in and say if they are insistent on best of 7 for the conference finals and the finals, no, that takes at least a month. And I don't see how that's going to work. I don't. According to their own timeline, which is going to be in the midsummer, late summer area, we just don't know. And with the way that this situation is developing, and it's developing quickly, I have to say I find it funny. So models change, and they admit that some of the modeling that we were seeing, a lot of the alarming stuff we were seeing was based on the idea that, well, people aren't actually going to do this. So we're not going to believe that people are actually going to stay home. So we're going to model it as if they won't, or maybe 50% stay home. And then it turns out most of us go, okay, yeah, all right, I don't want that. And then we all stay home and they go, oh, the model's changed. So in other words, if we all keep doing what we're doing, and if we can make, this nightmare scenario a little bit easier to take, then we don't know where we're going to be in the summer. And we don't know, we really don't have an idea. We can come up with some sort of sense of it, and I know there's people who want that certainty, and some people have that certainty. But while we may not shake hands again and we may not all be huggy with people that we meet, um, there will be at some point a time where some sense of economy and business will return, and we'll have some stuff figured out. And again, it's just, people are still figuring this thing out. This is a brand new situation we have never dealt with before. So kudos to people out there who are doing the right thing. Kudos to those in the medical services, and kudos to those of you that are working at a job where you don't have the option of taking time off and you can't stay home. So kudos to those of you that are going out there every day and doing your job for maybe $10, maybe $8, maybe $12. And we can discuss wages and all that on the other channel at some point, because again, there comes a point where it seems kind of insane. But anyways, there you go. There's sort of a news of the day thing mixed in with, of course, everyday stuff going on, because it affects everything. All of the stuff that we're seeing here is being affected by everything that we're going through collectively. And yeah, we'll see how long things go, what happens from here. But do your best. Stay home, stay safe, keep your hands nice and clean, and best of all, find those little breaks, those little things you do. Last night, playing Grand Theft Auto for about an hour and a half on the Entertainment Guy. That was fun. And that's always a fun thing to do, and I'm glad that I got to do that last night, and we will be doing that on the Entertainment Guy regularly as well. So just little things here and there that that brighten up your day, or at least give you a break from thinking about everything else. So all right, thank you guys so much for giving me a chance to continue to make content for you fine people, which gives me a break from all of it as well. And I have no problem providing you fine people with a break from it either. So, together as a community, keep this thing growing, keep this thing going. And hey, thank you guys so much for all of your time, for your attention, and your support. I will talk to you again soon.